Let us learn some holy Tanya. So we're in the 11th chapter, and we're explaining the technology of how energy goes from the deep whim, the deep power of our soul, and pushes its way into the letters of thought, which push its way into the letters of speech, which then move their way into action. And we're speaking about that sequence, that when one of the powers of the soul get activated, the power we are talking about was the power of giving, a power of a feeling of, it's a pre-lingual energy. I want to give to this person. Let's say you're on a date and you really like this girl, and you say, you don't say it, you don't even think it. You feel this desire of, I want to give to you. I want to foot the bill, which I hope you will. So there's a feeling of giving that comes into now thought, foot the bill, letters of speech. You tell the waiter, no, I'll take the bill, please. And then you literally take out your credit card and pay the bill. But that didn't start as a thought. It started as a feeling of the soul of giving. That feeling then organized itself as letters in your thought, which then came out as letters in speech, and then in action. Okay, that's where we are inside. Whether it's the feeling of giving, the feeling of compassion inside of my soul, it cannot come out. Because you can't do something without thinking about it. Even though it seems we do a lot of things without thinking about it. But the reason we're doing it is because there was some thought in my mind of doing something. So the body just follows, even though there's very little, oftentimes, conscious thought of doing it. But where the thought is coming from is, like we mentioned last time, that there's the godly soul which pushes holy godly motivations and thereby pushes holy godly letters of thought, which push holy godly speech, which then will actualize as holy godly actions. And then there's the animalistic, instinctual animal soul, which pushes unholy, selfish, self-centered, egotistical, bad vibes, thoughts, bad vibes speech, and bad vibes actions. And really, if you just listen to a person speak, it's a tremendous window into what they're thinking about, and essentially who's running their life. Is their animal soul running their life, or is their godly soul running their life? You can tell a lot just by listening to somebody speak. So be careful with your speech, but it really means be careful with your thoughts, which really means be careful with who's the master inside of you. Is it your godly soul, which is the motivating factor of your life, your godly essence, which is the real you, by the way, or is it the animal part of you which has hijacked your identity and made you think that that's who you are, but it's not? I always think of this movie, but it could be like in some previous reincarnation I saw a movie like this. It was basically like somebody stole somebody's identity. Inception, could that be a movie? But I always think about this thing where basically like somebody steals the guy's identity, and then the guy gets back to his own house, and he looks in the house, and there's like his wife and his kids are there, but there's like another guy there. And he knocks on the door, and like his wife opens the door, she's like, can I help you? Oh, she doesn't open it, but like the husband opens up. He's like, can I help you? He's like, this is my house, like I'm Mr. Johnson, like get out, honey, like some guy like at the door. She's like, who is it? Some guy says Mr. John, I think he's got the wrong place. And he's like, you're not Mr. Johnson? He's like, no, I'm Mr. Johnson. I'm Mr. Johnson. Who am? Maybe I'm not. Maybe he is Mr. Johnson. So your animal soul literally tries to hijack you and tell you that you're that selfish, egotistical, fill in the blank guy. And then it puts all sorts of thoughts, speech, and then actions that will follow that. So really, all of Torah, this deep stuff, is about reclaiming yourself from the identity theft that the Yetzer Hara is trying to perpetrate on your psyche, and ultimately you. And therefore, you gotta take reins and take hold of yourself. And you know one of the fastest ways that the Yetzer Hara hijacks your identity? Just scrolling away. Once you're just scrolling away, you're toast. Because you're not in control anymore. You're being controlled now. You're just on a leash now. The algorithm is too powerful. You can't win. So back to us. So that is then, when I have a desire, the desire goes into letters of thought, thought into speech, and speech then into action. And what if I tell somebody else to do something? So the words of my speech directly lead to action. The example here is like a king. If a king tells one of the servants to do something, they immediately do it. It's not even a delay. The speech immediately gets actualized. He tells the servant, provide this member of the community with a golden coin. So without delay, the servant just hands him the coin. So really, what was inside the words of the king? Inside the words of the king was the letters of thought of the king. What was inside the letters of thought of the king? Was the feeling of kindness from his soul. He sees this poor member of the community and he wants to bestow to that person. So the servant only gave the golden coin to the person because it came from an initial feeling of benevolence of the king. That's where it starts from. As mislabeshes midas chesed, so the feeling of being a giver of the king dresses up gam ba'oisias hamachshava, in the letters of thought of how am I going to actualize this feeling of goodness? Give coin to poor man, tell servant to give coin, and then coin is given. Here's another way, is you want to be a giving, compassionate person. That goes into thoughts in your mind. How am I going to actualize that? Your thoughts translate it to, why don't I say nice words to that person? Why don't I compliment my chavrusa? Say a nice word to them. That's a way to actualize just a feeling of being a good person and helping somebody else. Okay, that's all the analogy. Now we're going to get into the way God works. Okay, so just hold on to your tzitzis. We're going into space X, but space Aleph, a little bit, which is like an X. As it is with Hashem's midos, which means the midos of Hashem is that Hashem wants to be kind. Hashem wants to bestow, so let's follow it carefully. So when this comes down to our world, God's not up there, or God is everywhere. But when we say, up, we say conceptually, more towards infinite consciousness, more to the essence of the truth of Hashem. So when we talk about God has this want, even that is a creation, this want to bestow good to creation, that it starts to become revealed in our lower world, when it's coming to be revealed, how is Hashem going to bestow that good to us? He's going to bring us food, He's going to bring us a livelihood, He's going to bring us health, a family. This is called Nikra Gilui Zeh V'Hamshachas Pa'ula Zu. What is this called as it's coming down to this world? B'Shem Maimer. This is what's called the Asara Mamoris. So when you open up the Chumash and it says, let there be light, that is the end of a very long journey of Hashem having a want to bestow, and then turning into the letters of thought, and then coming into now communication, and God, as He speaks, is communicating and creating. Okay? Yes, Yankel?
That journey for Hashem, that's like not even instantaneous, right?
That's right. So we have a mashal of it. We have an analogy of it in the way that we do it. By the way, before Adam ate from the tree, when he would think, he would immediately manifest. It was instant manifestation. That's also what it means that Tama eitz was katama pri, that the tree and the fruit tasted the same, that there was no separation between the tree and the fruit. But afterwards, after the sin, so fruits had taste, but the trees taste like bark, which means there's a very long time delay from the feeling you're like, I could use a mango. So you look around, you're like, hey, there's a mango seed. Like, will it be ready for lunch? You plant it in the ground, and it takes some time until it actually manifests the intention. But it used to be that you would put a mango seed in the ground, and there mangoes. By the way, the same was, if you pay attention, that Adam and Eve are together and have children like that. There's no delay. Everything is immediate. That was the way that it was supposed to be. That from conception till birth should be immediate.
How does that work?
Conception till birth is that...
Like let's say I'm Adam and my mind controls my world, right? So I want to think of a son. That creates my son?
There would still be in the unification with Eve, but it would be instant. There'd be conception and birth immediately, and the child would already be grown.
So she wouldn't become pregnant?
It would be immediate. There would be no time delay. In other words, all of the, you have to speak to a makubal, but all of the unwinding of the genetic helix.
No stages.
That's right. It's either, well, there's two ways to look at it. Either there's no stages, or all the stages happen within a moment. An immediate unwinding of it, which really is more accurate. It's like going Chachma Bina, but super fast. So with Hashem, though, it's not even that. It's not even immediate. It's the same thing. But we're still, this is all analogy. This is all, this is all code. But when we're talking about Hashem, what we say is that when that will of bestowing good is entering our world, it's called a mimer. It's called now, it comes into Hebrew letters, and that's now going to be a way that God is going to then create and bestow the good. It's interesting that the action from Hashem's midos, remember, Hashem and His midos are one. So that Hashem wants to bestow good, which is one with Hashem. The way that Hashem is going to bestow that good is that it comes into the Hebrew letters and the different combinations. And we mentioned that from the beginning of the Sefer, all the different Ralah, Sha'arim, and every part of creation going through these letters. Nikrim b'shem oisius, Kegoin, for example. Lebrias ha'or, Nabindas ha'chesed. Hashem says, let there be light. Now, light is an act of bestowing of good. Light is also an analogy for goodness. Nimshach mimenu, hamshachas pe'ula v'koyach lifol v'livrei boyas ha'or, v'hamshachas koyach zeh v'chiyas zeh nikra b'shem maimer. This is called that Hashem wants to bestow light, which is good, which is to literally bestow to the world, not to contract, but to give. So Hashem then put this into the Hebrew letters, and the Hebrew letters are packets of information, and it's so fascinating, speaking to scientists and physicists, that the deeper they're investigating this world, as far as I understand, they're seeing that the fabric of the world is just information. Like, what is more empty space than space here? Which is pretty crazy. You go into an atom, how much of it is solid and how much of it is empty?
98%, right? Or 98% is empty.
Now that's, how much is your eyeball lying to you when you look at this piece of wood here? Now it's not lying per se because it is a piece of wood, but if that's just a shallow understanding of reality. That's a very coarse understanding of reality. So most of us just bump around looking at our biceps all day, and we think like, yeah, look at me, yeah. It's just, what a coarse set of eyes. Just hang out with some quantum physicist, and he'll tell you, bro, your bicep is like half of 1% even there. That's a very deflating thing for a Mr. America. What do you mean? Don't you see it? It's not even there, bro. You'll get me the latest numbers of how much empty airspace on that guy's bicep there actually is. It's a very deflating truth. But for somebody who's seeking truth, he starts refining his eyes to see. So if this world is much more empty than solid, so to speak, then what is it made up of? So the deeper and deeper investigations are showing it's more information. So it's only a matter of time when they get to what we've been talking about for thousands of years. You know what the information is? The Hebrew letters. And God is communicating all of the information necessary for every part of life to achieve closeness to God is right here in the Torah. Daniel.
If this table is only 98% empty, why do we only see the other 2%?
Because we have coarse eyes and we watch probably too many Hollywood movies. Yeah. Our eyes are we've got Fleischke Augen.
So for more like Shmira Sinayim, then...
For sure.
You would see more of emptiness when you saw the table.
You would see more the reality of what's going on.
But you still see the table. It's complete to me.
Yeah, you could see the table. You'd see the truth of the table. We always talk about the Tanya when he was on his deathbed. And Menachem Mendel, and his grandson was there, Menachem Mendel. And he said, what do you see when you look? He was in a cabin, and there were ceiling beams. He says, what do you see? He says, I see the ceiling beams. He said, Zaidi, what do you see? He says, I see the Hebrew letters Kuf and a Vav and a Resh and a Hey, Koire, which means a beam, flashing the beam in and out of existence. Remember when the Neo goes loco? And he just starts seeing the letters everywhere, the numbers? So it was letters. You don't even see, you just see the information. You never run their computer and all of a sudden you push the wrong button and all of a sudden you saw the code of the page. Yeah. You're like, what is that? You're like, oh, that's a sunset. You don't see it? A bunch of ones and zeros or something. And some code guy's like, oh, it's beautiful. You're like, I don't see it. Yeah, because you got coarse eyes. You only see a sunset. You don't see the information behind it. But somebody who learns Torah. So you look in here, you see the creation of all the worlds. You see, this is source material. This is where the sunset is coming from.
People get to that point in the Shem.
For sure. Then what do you think this is all about here?
You at that point?
Go to Ichimar, he'll take you there. I'm just a beginner. But this is the beginning of the stories. This is where we're all going.
So that's a shame.
This is what it's all about. This is source material. This is how to create the worlds. So when you're in this, you see, the more you go into it, you see you're like in the lab, creating. But you got to be refined. You can't be living on schnitzel all day. You got to have a refined, you have to be connoisseurs of wisdom to get this. It's subtle. Because we just look around, table, Home Depot. And I like Home Depot. I love building things. I appreciate it. But it's more than just get me some 2x4 and what is building? What is it? The concept, and how do you build? So building happens through letters. Let's just go a few steps further.
Binyan.
Pardon?
Binyan.
That's right.
The
Aleph Bina. The Beis of Bereshis, to be Boine, Abayis. B'shem Maimer, va'oisius yihi or, ki af she'ena ka'oisius machshava shalanu, chas v'shalom. Even though God's thoughts are not, God forbid, they're not like our thoughts, because that would be making God's thoughts very coarse. Mikol mokum heim inyan hamoira al havasa or, ma'ayin liyesh. It's like the way that when I am thinking something, it's like I'm bringing it into existence. You know what I'm saying? When you start thinking of something and then speaking it out, you're bringing something into existence. You ever hear that we speak like, as somebody says divrei Torah? So you say like the rabbi's like, he's bringing down some Torah. Like, where's he bringing it down from? The shelf? You heard that expression before? He's like, he's bringing down some stuff, some good stuff.
So
He's bringing down from his soul as it's coming through thought, letters, and then it's coming out. He's bringing it down and revealing. So Hashem is doing the same thing, so to speak. It's going from the essence of Hashem, and Hashem and the Torah is all one. Hashem is sort of bringing it down into then thought, and then into speech is it becoming revealed to a created world here. Shalachein nivra ha'or me hamshachas koyach zeh, v'loi nivru mimenu dvaram acherim, shenivru gam kem midas chesed, k'may mayim kayotze behem. And then God is bringing it into a specific, that's why letters are specific. It starts to create crystallization of creation. It's light as opposed to water. Mipnei shenislavshu behem koyachas bechinas tzirufim acherim. Should know, when you use certain words, it means something, it's powerful. And therefore, the different combinations of letters create different things. If I were to speak a completely different set of words right now, it would be a completely different experience. You know what I'm saying? If I literally said completely different letters and words. But I'm not. I'm using these particular words. Which is a very relatable point. That words and letters have powerful connotation and meaning. Hamor malas havas hamayim v'kayotz v'nimsa ki kol chayis v'koychas hanimshach. Maybe the dois of akadoshis latachtoin. I'm just going to read to the period. Lebora ma'ayin liyesh lachayis l'kaim nikru b'shem oisias akadoshis shem b'chinis hamshachas achiyis miritzayin v'chachmas u'midoisav l'savis oilamas. And Hashem is creating the worlds through this. Lachayosem v'heim shnei mine oilamas Amen stimen, the loyeskalian heim, mis avim v'chaim v'kayim mikoychas v'amshochas ne'elamas k'may oisis hamachshava shebenishmas ha'adam. So then God creates hidden worlds and revealed worlds. There's the hidden worlds, which is the worlds of thought, the letters while they're still in the thought. Al derech Moshe v'al nisgalian, and then there's the revealed worlds, nivroi v'chaim mis galus shenisgalu koichas v'amshavas ne'elamas v'nikron b'shem oisius hamachshava k'shehem b'chinas is galus l'almad is gal nikron b'shem ma'imoros v'dvar Hashem v'ropiv k'may oisius adibur ba'adam al derech mashal shem megalus l'shem mashit som v'som b'libai. So there's two categories of worlds. There's the hidden worlds. If I just sit here like this, it's going to be very awkward for you until I say something. Unless there's a whole big build-up and we just know that we're going to sit in silence for the next 30 minutes. So that sitting silently and me thinking of things is called, because I'm still thinking of things even if we're all quiet, that's called, that I'm starting to create worlds in my thought. Your thoughts are very powerful, so be careful with them. That's called hidden worlds. That's all the hidden worlds God is creating through his thought, so to speak. Once God brings it into a mimer, so to speak, it's now coming into speech. That's what you now see around you. Trees, plants, birds, buses, polar bears, bumblebees, hot springs, Banff Mountains. You ever been to Banff? Australia. Gewaldig. That's now coming into Ma'amorus Shenivra Ha'olam. That's now the revealed world. We should be Zoicha Mamish to understand this within ourselves and begin to enter into the way that Hashem is thinking kaviyachol and speaking kaviyachol, and b'siyat d'shmad cleave to Hashem b'chol deracheh de'eh with Mashiach tzidkenu b'mheira v'yameinu. Amen.
Amen.
Kol
This
tuv.
class was short.
B'ezrat Hashem.